rise again, giving the most high praise to Allah and the highest honors to His Prophet Noble Drawing. My measure tonight was inspired by a few things, the conversation that we were having on our Sunday school period about purity and what that purity represents. And I know I speak about purity a lot for those that are here often, but it's a very important concept to have, because if we study our Circle 7 and we study our Moorish literature, we will understand that purity is what precedes love, and love is our first principle. So until we get that purity, we can't even begin to master our principles. So it's very important that we take a better look at how to obtain purity. And I'll start reading from, I'm going to read from chapter 2. Chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 22. And it says, "Now love cannot manifest until its way has been prepared, and naught can rend the rock and bring down the lofty hills and fill the valleys up, and thus prepare the way, but purity. But purity in life men do not comprehend, and so it too come in flesh." So when it says, "and it too comes in flesh," that's referring to love as well, because Jesus was that love made manifest to us. And who was that purity made manifest to us? Who was the purity made manifest to us?
John the Baptist.
Islam. "And you, Elizabeth, are blessed, because yours is purity made flesh. And he shall pave the way for love," or our brother Jesus. "This age will comprehend but little of the works of purity and love. But not a word is lost. For in the book of Allah's remembrance, a registry is made of every thought and word and deed." So when it refers to that word not being lost, that's that word that's within us, that light that's within us, that we work daily, we strive daily to bring out of us and to manifest, so that we can show the world the light of Allah, or the grace of Allah. We are supposed to be Allah made manifest here on this realm. "And when the world is ready to receive, lo, Allah will send a messenger to open the book and copy from its sacred pages all the messages of purity and love." So speaking about reading this text, this text was during the time of our prophet Jesus and his forerunner John the Baptist. And it says that this age will comprehend but little of the works of purity and love. What age was this that we were in during this particular time with our brother Jesus? It was the Piscean age. We're now in the age of Aquarius. So this age, these degrees, these lessons are manifest to us. So we should know how to uplift ourselves, and how to purify ourselves, and how to love ourselves, and how to love each other. "Then every man of earth," verse 27, "then every man of earth will read the words of life in the language of his native land, and men will see the light, walk in the light, and be the light. And man again will be at one with Allah." Islam. And I would also like to read, and just to go over a definition of purity from the Random House College Dictionary, it gives certain synonyms for purity as being fixed, unmixed, or clean, or having a oneness of thought, or having a sense of consistency, being consistent. Islam. And I'll also read about purity on a national sense, well, a national and a divine sense, actually. And we'll read from chapter 48, and we'll start at verse 6. It says, "We, as a clean and pure nation, descend from the inhabitants of Africa, and do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity, we are returning that ideal, that's a foreign ideal that is in contradiction to our ideal of Islam. So verse 7 again says, therefore we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. So we are to return to the thought of mind that our forefathers had, that our mothers and our fathers had, and it goes further into that, and it says, the covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earthland which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. So we are to return again to that mindset and that ideal from our forefathers that they gave us, and to have a purity in our heart, a oneness in our mind. Islam. And I have a few more verses. I like to jump around. And while I'm looking, I was having a conversation this week with two Europeans at work, older Europeans, European men. There were one was about 80 and the other one may have been in his 70s. And to explain the concept of, they basically understand the concept of doing business with their own. And they couldn't understand how we could get to the point to where we would go to a foreign nation before we would go to our own. They couldn't, it baffled them. They couldn't understand it. So to our people, we seem as though we are super conscious, or we get kind of outcast when we say shop with our own or do for ourselves. And they try, people will try to say, oh, well, everybody should be equal, or you should look at everybody the same. But that is a concept of purity. That's a concept of race purity that was brought to us by our forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, that we are to desire to do business with our own, to have commerce and trade with our own before any other nation. And that's an ideal that we have to learn again. But they just couldn't understand the concept of not doing business with your own. It was so foreign to them. And that's the point that we have to get to again as a nation, to where if my brother here has a business, I wouldn't dare go to a European before I come to my brother here. No matter what the price, the European may be offering, I would pay more because I'm doing business with my brother. And all other nations, they have that ideal down. We're the only ones that lack that ideal right now. And that's what this institution is for, to regain our lost estate, to regain that ideal. And I'd also like to read from chapter 7, verse 25. And it speaks in regards to the 3 steps, which is the ladder of salvation. And I'll read this. And it says, Lamaz asked, pray, what is faith? And Jesus said, faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man, the certainty that man will reach the deific life. Salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of man to the heart of Allah. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks perhaps is true. And faith is next, and this is what man knows is true. Fruition is the last, and this is man himself, the truth. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition, faith is lost. And man is saved when he has reached deific life, when he and Allah are one. So, on a national sense, where will our salvation come from? Our salvation will come from those 3 steps. We have to first believe in our ability to succeed. We have to believe in our ability to manifest what we want to see. That's the first step. We have to believe, but we can't stop there. We have to have faith, which means we have to put the work in. We have to, if I have to drive 5 miles further to go and shop for my sister here, I have to drive that 5 miles further to go and shop with my sister. That's the faith. That's the action behind that belief. And then that fruition is when we have what we want manifested here in real time and we can see it. We have our Moorish society or our Moorish nation or whatever we want here, whatever we want to be manifested, whatever we believed in, we have that here. That's the fruition. And that's when we become one with Allah. We become a real sovereign nation, sovereign as an entire group, not as an individual.